My dad stole my inheritance for his new family. Now he needs my help, and I got the ultimate revenge. My name is Liam, and I'm 26 years old. For most of my life, I believed my father was my hero, the man who always had my back, the one person I could count on. My mother passed away when I was just 10, leaving my father and me to navigate life together. It wasn't easy, but we managed. For years, he told me that no matter what happened, I was his priority. I believed him, I trusted him, but I was a fool. The moment Linda walked into his life, everything changed. She was younger, beautiful, and manipulative. At first, I thought she was just another relationship that would come and go. But soon, she and her 2 kids, Josh and Sadie, became the center of my father's world. Suddenly, I was no longer his priority, I was just an inconvenience. At first, it was subtle. He started canceling our usual weekend outings because Emma had a recital or Josh wasn't feeling well. Our father-son dinners became family dinners, where I was forced to sit quietly while he showered his attention on them. Then, things got worse. I became the outsider in my own home. I was expected to cater to Linda and her kids, run errands for them, give up my room so Josh could have more space, and basically disappear whenever they wanted family time. Whenever I voiced my frustrations, my father would brush it off.
They're family, Liam. You need to get used to it.
I tried. I really did. But no matter what I did, I was never enough. Josh could do no wrong, and Sadie was treated like a princess. Meanwhile, I was blamed for everything that went wrong in the house. Then came the ultimate betrayal, the moment that changed everything. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a hardworking man who built his own business from the ground up. He loved me deeply and saw me as his legacy. When he passed away, he left me a substantial inheritance. Money that was meant to secure my future, help me with college, and set me on the right path in life. That money was my safety net, or at least it should have been. One evening, I overheard my father and Linda talking in hushed voices. I wasn't meant to hear it, but I did.
Liam doesn't need that money right now. Josh's medical bills are piling up, and Sadie's tuition is expensive. We're doing what's best for the family.
My heart sank. That night, my father sat me down and told me outright that he had taken my inheritance.
Son, you have to understand.
He said, his tone eerily calm.
We're a family. That money was just sitting there, and Josh and Sadie needed it.
I could barely process his words. That money was mine, I said, my voice shaking.
It still is, in a way.
He reasoned.
It's being used for our family, Liam, and you're part of this family.
But I wasn't. Not anymore. Pleaded. I argued. I even threatened legal action. But it was too late. The money was gone. Spent on them. That night, something inside me broke. I packed my things and left. Not once did my father try to stop me. He let me walk out of the house with nothing but a backpack, like I was just another problem he was happy to get rid of. I struggled. I had nothing. No savings, no financial support, and no home to return to. I had to rebuild my life from scratch. I took whatever jobs I could find, working myself to exhaustion just to survive. College was no longer an option. I couldn't afford it. I cut off all contact with my father and his perfect family. They made it clear that I wasn't part of their lives, so I erased them from mine. Years passed. I worked harder than I ever thought possible. I took night classes, saved every penny, and eventually built something for myself. A career, a home, and a life that was completely my own. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Then, out of the blue, I received a call from my father. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I hadn't heard from him in years. But when I answered, I recognized the voice immediately. Except this time, his voice sounded different. The confidence was gone, the dismissive tone he used to have whenever he spoke to me. Instead, I heard something I never thought I'd hear from him: desperation. And when he told me why he was calling, I couldn't help but smile. The tables had turned. For years, I never heard from my father. Not a single call, not even a message. Nothing. And honestly, I was fine with that. I had spent years rebuilding my life from scratch. I worked my way up in a competitive industry, learning everything I could and taking every opportunity that came my way. I wasn't just doing well, I was successful. I had a stable job, a beautiful home, and the financial security I had once lost. Everything my father had stolen from me, I built back 10 times over. Then, one evening, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. The number was unfamiliar, but something told me to pick up.
Hello?
The voice on the other end made me freeze.
Liam, it's your father.
I nearly laughed out loud. My father? After all these years, what could he possibly want? I didn't respond immediately, and the silence must have made him nervous because he quickly continued.
I know it's been a long time, but I really need to talk to you.
I said nothing, so he kept talking, and what he said next almost made me choke on my drink. He wanted my help. Apparently, things hadn't been going so well for his perfect family. Josh, the golden child, had made some very bad decisions. He had dropped out of college, wasted the money my father had stolen from me, and had now racked up thousands of dollars in debt. He had been reckless, and Sadie, his princess, wasn't doing much better. After years of being spoiled and handed everything, she had no idea how to take care of herself. She expected life to be as easy as my father had made it for her, but reality hit her like a truck. And Linda, the woman my father sacrificed me for, she had left him. Apparently, the moment the money dried up, she decided she wasn't interested in sticking together as a family anymore. She took whatever was left and walked away. Now, my father was alone, drowning in debt, and desperate, and he thought the son he threw away, would bail him out. I sat back, letting him ramble about how we're still family, and how a father and son should always have each other's backs. I could hear the sheer desperation in his voice. He wasn't calling me because he missed me. He wasn't calling me because he realized what he had done. He was calling me because I had money, and he had none. Finally, when he finished his pathetic speech, I spoke. "Oh, so now I'm your son?" Silence. I could almost hear him swallow his pride on the other end.
Liam, please. I know I made mistakes, but...
I cut him off. "No, Dad, you didn't make mistakes. You made choices, and now you're living with them." He stuttered, trying to come up with another excuse, but I wasn't interested. "You stole from me. You abandoned me. You took everything I had and gave it to people who were never going to appreciate it. And now that you have nothing, you suddenly remember I exist."
Liam, please.
There was actual begging in his voice now. The once proud father who had so easily cast me aside was pleading with me to fix his problems. And it was the most satisfying thing I had ever heard. But I wasn't done. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. "Do you remember the night I left?
What?
The night you let me walk out of that house with nothing. The night you stood by and did nothing while I struggled. Did you ever think about me?" Silence from the other end. That was all the answer I needed. I took a deep breath and made my decision. "No, Dad, I won't help you. I don't owe you anything." His voice broke.
Liam, please. I have nothing left.
I smiled to myself. That's not my problem. And with that, I hung up. I sat there for a long time, letting the weight of what had just happened settle in. Years of pain, betrayal, and struggle had led to this moment. I was finally free, but I wasn't done just yet. I thought he'd get the message, that he'd finally realize I wasn't his safety net, his backup plan, or his personal ATM. Instead, he doubled down. It started with messages. At first, they were simple. "Liam, please call me back. We need to talk." Then they became desperate. "Son, I know you're upset, but I'm your father. We can fix this." And finally, manipulative. "If you don't help me, I'll lose everything. Is that what you want?" I ignored them all. Then he got creative. One night, I came home to find someone waiting outside my building. It was Josh. He looked nothing like the arrogant, spoiled golden child I remembered. His once expensive clothes were worn out, his hair was a mess, and the confidence he used to wear like a crown, gone. Still, his voice had that same entitlement when he spoke.
"Liam, we need to talk."
I folded my arms. "We? Since when do we talk?" He scoffed, rolling his eyes.
Look, I get it. You're mad. You want revenge or whatever, but you need to get over it. We're family.
I actually laughed. Family? Josh had the audacity to look annoyed.
Yeah. I mean, I know Dad made mistakes, but you can't just turn your back on us like this.
Like I was the one who abandoned them. I shook my head. Ryan, do you even hear yourself? You and Dad threw me away like garbage. You took everything from me, and now, just because you're struggling, you expect me to care. His jaw clenched, and his voice turned cold.
Dad said you'd be selfish, brat.
I smirked. Selfish? That's rich coming from the guy who took my inheritance and blew it on nothing. His face twitched. I hit a nerve. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. Let me make this clear, Josh. I don't owe you anything. Not after what you did. Not after what Dad did. You're on your own. For the first time, I saw a flicker of panic in his eyes.
Come on, man.
He muttered.
It's not like you can't afford to help.
I raised an eyebrow. And that's supposed to make me want to? Josh's fake patience finally snapped.
You know what? Screw you.
He spat.
You think you're better than us just because you have money now? You got lucky.
I let out a slow breath. Lucky? I worked twice as hard because of what they did to me. I fought for everything they took away. And now, because they had burned through their stolen wealth, I was suddenly the bad guy. I stepped back, shaking my head. Leave, Josh. He glared at me, but he knew he had lost. He turned and stormed off, muttering curses under his breath. But I wasn't stupid. If Josh had the guts to show up, my father wasn't far behind. And I was right. A week later, my father came to my office. He looked defeated. His suit was wrinkled, his face pale, and there was a weight in his eyes I had never seen before. But I felt nothing. He sat across from me, hands clasped together, as if trying to appear humble.
Liam,
He started, voice low.
I know I can't change the past, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, I need your help.
I leaned back in my chair. So I've heard. He swallowed.
The bank is taking the house. The debts are out of control. Josh has nowhere to go, and I have nothing left.
There it was. He didn't want a relationship. He didn't want to fix things. He just wanted money. I let the silence stretch between us before I finally spoke. That's not my problem. His lips parted slightly, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing.
Liam, please. I raised you.
I cut him off. No, Dad. You raised Josh. You abandoned me the second you got a new family. His face turned red.
I was trying to do what was best for everyone.
No, you were doing what was best for you. He flinched. I stood up, walking to the window. I could feel his eyes on me, desperate, waiting for me to break. But I didn't. You made your choice years ago, Dad. Now you have to live with it. He let out a shaky breath.
So that's it? You're just going to let us suffer?
I turned to face him, my voice calm but firm. You let me suffer. You let me lose everything. And now you expect me to save you. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, I saw true regret in his expression. But it was too late. I walked to the door and opened it. We're done here. He hesitated, as if waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Finally, he stood, adjusting his jacket like it was some last attempt at dignity. Then, without another word, he walked out of my office. And just like that, he was gone. For the first time in years, I felt free. But the drama wasn't finished there. And just like that, he was gone. For the first time in years, I felt free. But the drama wasn't finished there. Watching my father walk out of my office should have been satisfying. It should have felt like justice. But I knew my story with him wasn't over. Because people like my father and Josh, they never truly give up. And I was right. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. First, I ignored it. Then I got another. And another. I finally picked up.
Liam, please don't hang up.
It was my stepmother, Linda. I almost laughed. The woman who had stood by while my father stole my inheritance. Who had treated me like an outsider in my own family. Now she was calling me for help? I stayed silent, waiting. She took a shaky breath.
It's your father. He's in the hospital.
I didn't react. Okay, I said flatly. She hesitated, probably expecting some show of concern. When I gave her nothing, she kept going.
It's bad, Liam. Stress, heart problems. We don't know if he's going to make it.
I leaned back in my chair. And you're telling me this because? She let out a choked breath.
Because we need help. The medical bills, we can't afford them. And Josh.
I cut her off. She sniffled.
Josh, he's struggling. He's been drinking. He lost his job. And with your father like this, Liam, we don't have anyone else.
That was it. The real reason she called. They didn't want me. They wanted my money. Again. I sighed. Linda, tell me something. She sniffled.
Anything, dear.
I ignored the fake sweetness in her voice. When my father stole my inheritance. When you stood by and let it happen. Did you ever think about how that would affect me? She fell silent. I continued. When you both kicked me out, did you ever stop and wonder how I would survive? More silence. Now, after all these years, when you've lost everything, you suddenly think I should care? Linda let out a shaky breath.
Liam, I know we made mistakes.
I laughed, shaking my head. Mistakes. A mistake is spilling coffee on someone. Forgetting a birthday. What they did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Every single day they chose to abandon me. Every single day they chose to prioritize Josh over me. And now they had to live with that choice. I'm sorry, I said, voice cold. But I'm done. Linda gasped.
Liam, please. Your father.
My father, I interrupted. He's not my father anymore. He made that clear years ago. I heard her break on the other end of the line. Desperation, regret, but not for what they did to me, only for what they had lost. She tried again, but I hung up. And this time, I felt nothing, but I wasn't quite finished. I knew my father and Josh would never learn their lesson unless they truly faced the consequences of their actions. So I made a few calls. See, I had connections now. Lawyers, financial advisors, people who knew how to dig up information. Turns out, my father and Josh had more skeletons in their closet than I thought. Josh had been embezzling money from one of his last jobs before he got fired. And my father? He had hidden debts even Linda didn't know about. Months passed. I never heard from them again. Josh and my father lost everything. The house, the cars, whatever pride they had left. Meanwhile, I built the life they never thought I could. I had real friends, a loving fiancé, and a successful business that was growing every day. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. No more ghosts from my past. No more toxic family dragging me down. Just me, living my best life. And that was the ultimate revenge.